Hi everybody, it's Miranda and welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today I have a very exciting topic for you. We are going to be talking about my top 10 favorite books, all-time favorites. Well, not all-time favorites, but favorite books as of right now. That list could change and evolve as I start to be exposed to more books, but for right now this is as well as I can narrow it down for you. This list is not going to include any of my favorite nonfiction books, so you won't see things like The Enchanted World or The Practical Guide to Dragons, because those books I consider to be nonfiction, so you won't see those. This is just strictly fictional books, and I'm going to be counting backwards, but the first 9 or so books that I'm going to be telling you, they aren't really like ranked in any particular order. Because my taste in books just depends on what I'm feeling for the time. So I could be really into one thing and then the next day be into another thing. So, yep, that's going to be it. The only book that is for sure going to be my top book is going to be my #1 book, which is going to be stated last. And I will share with you that is my absolute all-time favorite. So, without further ado, let's talk about books. So, my number 10 favorite book is Caraball by Stephanie Garber. And like I said, this isn't like the bottom of the pile, but I gotta say, this book was really, really good. And it definitely deserves to be one of my top 10 spots. This book is about a girl named Scarlett who wishes to pretty much move away from like her family life. And she's going into an arranged marriage, but she's always had this childhood dream of participating in this night circus called Caraball. And lo and behold, she gets invited. I mean, it's a very prestigious event, and she and her sister both get invited to participate in the games. And little does she know that there's a lot more going on than just a game. And I think I'll leave it at that. So... this book was really amazing. I loved the whole tone of it. I loved reading about the circus, and I loved all of the fantasy and magic that was portrayed in this. The author does a really good job describing it and doing her world building, and there's a little bit of romantic tension in there too that I find really good in a book. So yes, all in all, this was one of my top 10 favorite books. The second book that I have for you guys is a middle grade fantasy. It is called Chase by Jesse Haas, and it is about a boy named Finn who witnesses the murder of his grandfather, and he is now on the run because the group that murdered his grandfather is now after him. And he's on the run, and he keeps getting chased down by this mysterious hunter who has... On the bag it says, who has a horse that can sniff like a bloodhound. And it all, like, he starts discovering, like, all these secrets about his past, and all these things start to unfold for him that he never knew about before. And it just is such a good book. I love the tension, the suspense, the mystery in it, and of course I loved the ending of the book. It was so good. And the horse is just such an adorable character in the book. Ah, so cute. So, yes, this is another book that I would recommend. It's in my top 10. The next book that I have for you guys is A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. This is one of the handful of adult novels that I've read. I picked this up when I was in high school because I saw it and it sounded pretty interesting. My family wasn't real sure about it, but I wanted to read it anyway, and oh my gosh, it was so different. I didn't know that this was meant for adults, and the whole like behavior of the characters in this book was so different from the other books that I had heard about in high school. And at the time, this was when like Twilight and Fallen and all of those kind of series were really popular, and then this book came out and it was different. It was, oh my gosh, it is such a good book. This book is about a woman named Diana Bishop, and she works as like a scholar in the library, and she's also a witch. And one day she accidentally calls forth this mysterious manuscript, and she looks at it and sees some very strange drawings, and then it disappears. and she meets a wonderful vampire boyfriend, and she discovers that that particular manuscript holds a very special secret, and everybody in the community of vampires and witches and other supernaturals are after that manuscript. So I will leave it at that, but oh my goodness, it was so good. And oh, I loved it. This is my all-time favorite witch book that I've ever read. It's my only witch book that I've ever read, but it was my favorite. It left a really good impression on me and set the bar pretty high. All right, my next on the list, I think we're on book number 7. This is called Wolf Brother by Michelle Haver, right? Yes, it is the first book in the Chronicles of Ancient Darkness series, and it was interesting. This book takes place a long time ago, and it's about a 12-year-old boy named Torak, who is one of the last of his clan, which is the Wolf clan. Him and his father are the last 2 people, and his father gets killed. And little does Torak know that he and his companion, his wolf companion, are destined to save the earth from this evil that's been poisoning it. And ooh, it is so good. This is just such a good book about a boy and his companion, and the story is just really amazing, and I loved how it takes place in the past, and I just love this book. This was a really good book. The antagonist is really intriguing and not quite what you're expecting, and there's plot twists, and it's so good. So I recommend this book. Is definitely one of my favorites. Okay, so the next book that I have for you guys is called Winterling by Sarah Prunius, number 6 on my list. This book is also a middle grade fantasy. And this is about a girl named Fern who lives with her grandmother, and she lives in the normal world and discovers that she's actually like tied to this magical world, and she finds the gate to get into the magical world and discovers that it's in trouble, and there's an evil sorceress that's trying to break through that boundary of the magical world into her world. So this is just a really amazing book, and she meets friends along the way who help her defeat the evil sorceress and help the rightful ruler of this magical kingdom reclaim their throne. I will leave it at that. This book left such a good impression on me. I loved it because it had a lot of sweet moments. It had some romantic tension, and I love the world that was created and described, and I loved the shape-shifting characters in the story. They were amazing. So, definitely one of my all-time favorites. Okay, so the next book that I have for you guys, number 5, halfway through, is Soundless by Rochelle Mead. This is a standalone novel, so if you don't want to get involved in a series, this one is my first standalone that I'm sharing with you guys. Well, Chase was also a standalone, but hey. So this book was really good. This is about a girl named Faye who lives in a village at the top of the mountain. Her village is known for mining, but they also have a very unique quirk. Everybody in the village is deaf, and they speak only through sign language and through images that are drawn on these tablets. And one day, Faye decides to be really brave and makes the journey down the mountain to plead with the higher-ups, the emperor or whoever, to spare her village of all of like the taxing and the stuff, because her village is very impoverished, and requests supplies, more supplies be sent up there. And when she gets down at the bottom, you start to uncover secrets and about why her village became the way it was. You learn about all kinds of things that just make this book amazing, and I loved it. I loved how unique the characters were. I loved the setting of the story, and I loved that it draws from mythology that you don't really hear about very often in media. So this book was an amazing read, and I just thought it was such a good book. So unique, so different. Alrighty, coming in at number 4 on my list of books, but like I said, it doesn't really matter. They're not really tiered. Anyway, coming in at number 4 is Prophecy of the Sisters by Michelle Zink. This book is about 2 twin sisters named Leah and Alice, and they are upper class. They live in like a wealthy English community, and they discover that they are part of this prophecy where one sister is destined to bring forth evil, and the other sister is meant to stop this evil. This prophecy just is like destined for the sisters to turn against each other, and as they start going down this path of good and evil, they start diverging, and they uncover secrets about their past, about why they're tied to this prophecy to begin with, and it is really amazing. I liked this book because it was a unique form of fantasy. I liked that it drew on more, I wouldn't say traditional, I would just say it drew on a different kind of folklore than some of the other books. Like I said, I read this during the time when everybody else was reading Twilight. So this book was, again, very different and amazing. So yes, this is definitely one of my favorites. It's the first book in the Prophecy of the Sisters trilogy. So if you're interested, then I highly recommend this book. Okay, so coming in at number 3, we have a book that I was introduced to while I was in college. It is my last middle grade novel, I promise. It is called The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnell. And, ooh, you guys, I love this book. This is just pure, like, fairy tale fantasy. And it is just beautiful. The magic is beautiful. The world is well developed and amazing, and the little girl who is the protagonist of the story is just amazing. It's just awesome, and it's so cute. It is about a girl named Luna who was born into this world where once a year one family must sacrifice their baby to the Witch of the Woods. And lo and behold, she was the one who was sacrificed that year, but come to find out, the Witch of the Woods actually isn't evil at all. She's actually a nice witch who just is confused as to why people keep dumping their babies into the woods every year. So she takes Luna to a safer village on the other side of the forest, and what she does is she feeds the babies Starlight. And Starlight provides them with sustenance, and it gives them like a good luck charm so that way the children become successful. But in this instance, the witch accidentally fed Luna Moonlight, hence her name Luna. So she decides to keep her and train her as her apprentice. This is another witch story, so I guess Discovery Witches was not the one and only. But I'll leave it at that, and it was an amazing story if you're looking for strong female protagonists, for ambiguous antagonists, and it was very heart-wrenching to read the beginning of the story when you hear about the sacrifice. And it's just amazing. The passage through time is smooth. The characters are all, you get to hear about all the different characters, and it's just, wow. It's amazing. So I highly recommend reading this. Okay, so number 2 on my list, you guys, is this book here, The Language of Thorns by Leigh Bardugo. I have not read any other of Leigh Bardugo's books. I know that this book was supposed to be like the fairy tales that people of the Grishaverse were supposed to be hearing, but I just read this book on its own, and ooh, it is so amazing. This book is essentially a collection of retold fairy tales, and the spin that the author puts on this is amazing. They're beautiful, they're dark, like they're supposed to be. And this book also has a series of beautiful illustrations that change and grow as the story changes and grow, which was very aesthetically pleasing, and it was just a really good collection of stories. And yeah, so if you are a fan of fairy tales and you want more of a more modern retelling with a darker twist to them, then I highly recommend that you read this book, The Language of Thorns. Okay, my number one top favorite, all-time favorite book is Tiger's Curse by Colleen Houck. Oh my gosh, this book was amazing, and let me tell you what it's about. It is about a girl named Kelsey who just graduates high school and gets a summer job at the circus where she develops this bond with the circus's white tiger. And as things start to unfold, she finds out that, oh, this tiger is not just any tiger. He is a cursed prince of India. And her and his destinies are now entwined in order to help break the tiger's curse that was placed on him. Oh my gosh, you guys. I bought this book because the cover, look at that cover. I mean, look at it. It's shiny, metallic, beautiful, beautiful cover. I totally judged a book by its cover. I didn't read the inside of it, and then I put it down. And then I finally decided to pick it up and read it, and I did not read the inside flap. And when you reach the chapter where you find, this isn't a spoiler, but when you hit the chapter, when I hit that chapter, when you found out that this was actually like a fantasy story, I thought this was just like a conservation story. No, it's a fantasy. And I was just taken so off guard. You know, I was already caught up in the beauty of the circus. And I loved her bond and attachment to the animal that she met. And then to find out that now he's actually a cursed prince. that was beautiful and amazing. And this story is cool. It's packed full of mythology from not just from India, but from all over the world. The author did an amazing job blending the mythology of that area of Asia together into this story. She says right on her website that she draws from a lot of different myths and stories, and she added like a fantasy twist to them, and that's amazing. There's a lot of action in this story. There's a lot of details about the different fighting styles that are used in this part of the world, and there's details on there's just amazing, and there's a little bit of romance in here that is sweet and pure and innocent, and I love it. It's just, this book is my all-time favorite book of all time. My all-time favorite book of all time, you guys. That's amazing grammar. Yes, this is my all-time favorite book, and I love it. I have reread this book like 4 times. When I read it the first time, I read it in like 3 days, which for some of you more fast, well-seasoned readers, it's like psh. But for me, it usually takes me like a month to go through a book like this, maybe a year. And I read it in 3 days because it was just that good. It was that stunning. And it was during the time when Twilight and everything was popular, and then you had this book come out where not only are you dealing with shape-shifting beings that are not werewolves and vampires, but you're also dealing with a whole different part of the world, a whole different culture that you're being exposed to in this book. I don't know how accurate this book is. I wanted to do some research where I break down the book into like what is real in this book and what isn't. But just to catch like a glimpse of it, and then to have it, romanticized in fantasy. Some people say that's actually one of the things that I've noticed on Goodreads that people attack this book for, is because of that. But I think that it was very beautiful and made the book stand out. and ooh, it was amazing. And I have all of this author's books. So, yes, I definitely recommend this book if you love supernatural fiction. Okay, so that's all that I got for you guys. Like I said, the rest of the books that I mentioned besides Tiger's Curse were kind of like, they're there, and the shelf that is pictured behind me actually has all of my favorite books that I've read on it. Yeah. So I also have some of my favorite books scattered into the shelves as I did the remodeling, the redecorating type thing in my last bookish video. But yeah, those are my top 10 favorite books. Let me know in the comments down below what some of your guys' favorite books are. And if you liked this video, then go ahead and click the like button. And if you want to see more content like this, then click subscribe. And if you're looking for something new to read, then feel free to check out my book, The Curse of Sokotoa, which I will leave linked down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time with another video. Bye!